Alright, so hello everybody, Fat Libertarian here. This video comes to us from therightscoop.com. This is Bill Whittle responding to the MSNBC drone Chris Hayes. I believe Chris Hayes said something to the effect that he did not like to, I guess, honor the troops or to thank the troops for their service or whatever it was. Essentially kind of calling them war criminals or whatever. And I want to make it clear that I do not agree with Chris Hayes, but I also do not agree with Bill Whittle in this video. Whittle. That was funny. So let me just play this here.
Rhetorically proximate to who said over Memorial Day weekend, I'm not comfortable. This MSNBC host, Chris something or other, this MSNBC host who said, I'm not really comfortable calling our dead soldiers heroes because it's rhetorically proximate to It's rhetorically proximate to being in favor of war, and war is bad. Says who? Says who? He said, and they went on to apologize, well, we've had a decade of war. We haven't had a decade of war, you idiot. 250 years of war in this country. We will continue to have another 250 years of war. Do you know why? You moron. Do you know why there's war? And you know why there's going to be more war? Because there are bad people out there.
And there we see the flaw in his deranged psychosis. The reason we're in perpetual warfare is not because there's bad people. There's always going to be good and bad people. It's because we police the world. Now, as a conservative, we would also say, well, of course there's greed in the world, but it's government that encourages the risk-taking when they bail out businesses. Likewise, as a conservative, I would say that, yeah, there is evil in the world. There are truly bad people in the world. And when government intervenes militarily throughout the world or attempts to try to shape the perfect foreign policy, you're going to create more enemies and you're going to have perpetual warfare. It should be common sense. It's the conservative, it's the consistent approach. Now, a lot of this, I used to think like Whittle here. I used to agree with him. And I had the sort of mindset of a football fan almost, like I was cheering on my team, and I hated the other side so much that I didn't really care what they had to say or what we may have done to them in the past. I didn't give a shit. I also did not know what we had done to them. I wasn't aware. I was completely ignorant of the history, of what we did in Iran. Iran is probably the best example that I can give in terms of what we did in 1953. Essentially, what happened is it all came down to energy and oil, and what Britain wanted was It was Iran wanted to nationalize the oil company, so then Britain puts pressure on the U.S. to basically have the CIA come in and do a coup and install our own brutal form of, I guess you'd call it westernized brutality when we came in and overthrew the Shah, or we set up the Shah. So it creates, and that's what people like Bill Whittle never look at. They never listen to. They never are willing to put these instances in context, in proper context, as to what is instigating them. Irrespective of whether or not you think we should have instigated it. We're not making a judgment, even at this point, whether the instigation was correct. I just need you to acknowledge, Neocon Whittle, that the instigation did occur. They don't even acknowledge it. And they just keep railing. And so now it's come down to their inability to, or their ignorance, of knowing the history between the United States, Israel, and the Middle East, has created in their mind such a warped, faithless viewpoint of humanity. When Christ talks about loving your neighbor, what I believe he's really talking about is this very thing. Loving those who are different than you culturally. Having the faith to love them. People like Bill Whittle would say or Jesus is a pacifist. And I don't really endorse pacifism. I endorse non-aggression, which is not committing acts of aggression, wanton aggression against a peaceful individual. That's very different than pacifism. Pacifism suggests you remain passive even if someone slaps you in the face or hits you in the face. So this is where the difference between the neocon me, I guess you could say, Bill Whittle types, and the new me is I'm willing to look at our history, look at the things we've done, the decisions we've made, what it's led to, and make a blunt and honest assessment of the facts and the logic and the history involved. Basically in his video, he has this mindset that there's an entire race of people that are inherently evil. Why? All because he has no context. He has no idea why they attack us. So he starts throwing out these platitudes that they attack us. He actually says in the video, they attack us because they want what we have.
There are bad, evil people out there, and they want what we have, and we have to stop them or we're going to die, period.
If they want what we have, then why are they fighting us? Because we've been forcing it on them. That makes no fucking logical sense. They want what we have. I thought they hated us because we were rich and we were free. According to these people, they're inherently evil, and they don't want to be free. They want a molocracy. And I actually agree with that. I think a lot of them do. I don't know what the numbers are. It's very hard to tell. But they have a very different culture than ours. And I don't like their culture. I think it's a dark, repressive culture, personally, politically speaking, and personally speaking. But there are probably aspects of their culture I would like. But it doesn't matter. None of that gets down to what really matters, and that is that our inner interventionist policies are what motivate these acts of terror against us. And as long as we police the world, people will attack us. That's what's instigating it, not some vague or created idea that, there are evil people in the world who just act evil for the sake of evil. What, like 0.1%? No. There is a force within the world that has the power to change these relationships around the world, to change the relationship with Iran. And that is the U.S. We're the only one that can change it because we're the ones putting our thumb on them. And we've been doing it since the 50s. And of course the blowback came in 1979. And that's where most Americans, like Bill Whittle, that's where they start their history. They just attacked us out of nowhere. Well, what about this thugocracy you put in place for 20 years and kept them under it for 20 years? What is that? And then they go to this insanity where they say, oh, that's not why they attack us. They attack us because we're rich and we're free. So let me just play that out for you. These people, these neoconservatives, are so fucking crazy. They actually think that the terrorists sit there and go, wait a minute, why are we attacking them? Are we attacking them because they blow up our people? And they hate our culture, and that's why they kill us? Or are we attacking them because they're rich and they're free? I'm going to go with they're rich and they're free, because I really hate the fact that they're rich. I don't really care that they kill us, but the fact that they're rich and they're free, that's why I want to kill them. It's completely absurd. It's laughable. It's pathetic. They haven't thought it through. They haven't processed or cried about 9/11 or something. I don't know what it is.
These people will never go away. This is kind of...
They will never go away as long as we intend on changing their culture, changing their way of life, policing the world. As long as we continue policing the world, we will be in perpetual war and perpetual bloodshed because of people like Bill Whittle. That's the truth. And yes, changes need to be made on both sides. But again, I submit to you that the United States is the one that has the power to change this relationship with Iran.
My argument against this sort of idyllic society of any kind. There are people that choose to be evil. It's not like you can...
They are motivated to commit acts against us because of policies the United States commits against them, such as sanctions, which leads to death, such as wars, which lead to death. These are things that motivate them to take up arms against us, or to literally blow themselves up in an effort to kill a few of us. This should be common sense. If we can see that government creates unintended consequences and blowback within the economy as conservatives, when it intervenes and it picks winners and losers, why can't we see the same damn thing when it intervenes militarily? I'll tell you why. Because they don't have the balls to see it. They don't have the guts, or they're just simply ignorant.
Educate them. It's not like you can breed it out. They want to be. They like it. And we have to stop them. We have to stop them. And that's why we do things like the Stratosphere Lounge, because no one talks about this in the mainstream culture. No one talks about this kind of stuff. But it's the truth. We have to protect ourselves against these violent, evil people. We say things like, well, we don't, but these guys like that guy on MSNBC say things like, well, it's not fair to say that our society is better than others. Excuse me, let me get my liberal voice out. I got to get a little closer to my... It's not fair to really say that our society is any better than any other society. That's kind of a jingoistic thing that I think is well in the past. I think what we're really trying to say here is that cultures are different and no one's better than anyone else. They're all unique in their own way, and they provide.
So what he's basically saying here is that our culture is better than them, and that's why we should bomb them. And then when they respond to our naked aggression, they're evil. What kind of fucked up mentality is this? How illogical. I mean, there's a video, maybe I'll try to find it, where it explains the United States and Iran's relationship. And I use Iran because it's just such a perfect example. It's got a little bit of everything. Where it takes us and it puts the United States in Iran's place. I would love for Bill Whittle to watch that video and watch his head explode. But people like him, they won't get it. They'll never get it until we can't afford it. Until we can't get our troops home because we can't afford to bring them home. And they're stuck out in the field and they won't be able to get food. And guess what? They're going to have to go and get food. And they're going to run into a lot of Arabs, and they will give them food, and they will give them housing. Because they're taught to be very nice to strangers, actually, in the Middle East. Unless they shoot you in the head. I'm just kidding. So, I'll put the link below to this video so you can watch it in all of its misguided passion, its ignorance. And I guess, in the end, what I'm trying to achieve with this video is to relate to you how I think we need to focus less on individual issues. It's almost like talking about or debating the Bible where people get in arguments over intricacies instead of focusing on the bigger issue at hand. And I think that's always my intention, is to actually focus on the bigger issue at hand. And that is simply what type of country or world it is that I want to live in. I want to live in a world where it's not our responsibility to police the world. I want to live in a world where it's not our responsibility to centrally plan or manage the world economy. Why? Because it requires massive amounts of theft to fund the aggression or force necessary to bring the ultimately destructive results of interventionism. Because we know it's going to result in chaos. And that's what these people always do, people like Bill Whittle. They don't care about the chaos, really. Which is kind of weird because the Bill O'Reillys, the Bill Whittles, the Sean Hannitys, they love this egotistical game of foreign policy, and it really brings the psychopaths into government who think they can control and shape the world and play God. All that's going to end up in is chaos and death through war. And we're witnessing it now. And if we end up in a war in Iran, that one's probably going to spiral out of control, and it's going to bring in other nations. And it's just really, it's going to be more of the same, but it's going to be magnified because you've got the world economic situation. And it's such a problem because the United States is supposed to be the country that does not commit acts of aggression. It does not do aggressive wars. And for my neoconservative non-friends, When I say aggressive wars, I mean attacking someone who has not attacked you. That would be a government. Attacking another country's government which has not attacked us militarily. Okay, if they haven't attacked us militarily with their government approval, declared war on us, then we have no right to declare war on them. It'd be like me going next door, killing my Arab neighbors because they might one day kill me. Why? Because they hate the fact that I'm a Christian and I'm fat. I guess I'm right. Why? Because I'm America. That's pretty much the logic, and that's where it stops. So anyways, I'll put the links below. This video could go on and on, but I can't play the whole thing. It'll just piss you off. And again, I don't want to get into, I'm not agreeing with the guy Chris Hayes. I could give a shit about that guy. He's got those stupid New York glasses. I don't care about Chris Hayes. But what I care about is the indignant arrogance and ignorance by Bill Whittle. That just illustrates why I'm really no longer a Republican, and I'm looking for a party, or I'm looking for something. I'm looking for something out there. Something other than a Mayor Bloomberg, who's now telling his people they can't have soda pop at a certain amount. I'm surprised Bill Whittle doesn't agree with him. I mean, if you're going to go down this interventionist route, oh well. Links are below. God help us all.